The grand hall of the Galactic Council Station gleamed under artificial lights that mimicked a dozen different home suns. Ambassador Ji-hoon Park stood at the central podium, his dark suit a stark contrast to the colorful robes and biological variations of the hundreds of alien delegates surrounding him. He had practiced this speech for weeks, choosing each word carefully to bridge the gap between Earth's newcomer status and the ancient civilizations that dominated the galaxy. Honorable members of the Council, Ji-hoon began, his voice steady and warm. Earth comes before you today, not to demand, but to offer partnership. We understand that humanity is young in galactic terms. We have much to learn from species who traveled the stars, while our ancestors still lived in caves. Across the chamber, High Chancellor Vrex of the Vraxian hegemony shifted in his elevated seat. The reptilian alien's scales darkened with displeasure. His species had ruled 17 systems for 3,000 years. They had crushed rebellions, absorbed weaker civilizations, and built an empire through strength and fear. Now these primitive humans dared to speak of partnership as if they were equals. Ji-hoon continued, unaware of the danger brewing in the Vraxian section. The trade agreements we propose today benefit all parties. Earth offers rare minerals from our outer colonies, advanced computing systems, and, most importantly, our commitment to fair dealing. We ask only for access to standard shipping lanes and recognition of our territorial boundaries. The proposal was reasonable, almost generous. Several alien species nodded their various heads, tentacles, or sensory organs in approval. Humanity had proven surprisingly capable in the 2 years since joining the galactic community. Their ships were crude but functional, their diplomats earnest if inexperienced, and their trading practices scrupulously honest. But to Vrex, this reasonableness was itself an insult. Weak species should grovel and beg. Strong species should dominate and take. These humans did neither, acting as if their brief technological advancement had earned them respect that should take millennia to achieve. Ambassador Park, Vrex's translator device, rendered his hissing speech into standard galactic language. Your words speak of partnership, but your actions reveal arrogance. You occupy systems that border Vraxian traditional hunting grounds. You refuse to acknowledge the proper hierarchy of species. You treat ancient civilizations as mere equals, rather than showing appropriate deference. Ji-hoon turned to face the Vraxian section, his expression remaining diplomatic despite the clear hostility. High Chancellor, Earth recognizes the achievements of all established species. However, we believe respect should be mutual. The systems we occupy were unclaimed according to Council law. We have violated no established territories. Council law, Vrex spat the words, written by the weak to restrain the strong. The Vraxian hegemony does not forget those who show disrespect. We do not forgive those who challenge our rightful dominance. Council mediator, Thelix, a floating being of pure energy contained within a crystalline vessel, pulsed with concern. High Chancellor, Ambassador, please, these proceedings are meant to foster cooperation, not conflict. Perhaps we should take a recess to allow tempers to cool. There is no need for recess, Ji-hoon said calmly. I apologize if my words caused offense. That was never my intention. Earth seeks only peaceful coexistence and mutually beneficial trade. The formal ceremony continued for another hour. Ji-hoon answered questions from various delegates, explained Earth's proposals in detail, and made several concessions to address minor concerns from other species. The Vraxians remained silent, but their hostility filled the chamber like a physical presence. As the session concluded, delegates began filing out toward the reception hall, where refreshments from across the galaxy awaited. Ji-hoon gathered his data tablets, allowing himself a small smile. Despite the Vraxian hostility, the day had gone well. Several species had privately indicated they would support Earth's proposals. He never saw the Vraxian assassins moving through the crowd. The first plasma bolt struck Ji-hoon in the chest, burning through his suit and flesh. He gasped, more from shock than pain, and staggered backward. The second bolt hit his shoulder, spinning him around. The third caught him in the back as he fell. Screams erupted throughout the chamber. Delegates scattered, some fleeing, others frozen in horror. Security drones activated, but the assassins had already dropped their weapons and stood with arms raised, making no attempt to escape. Ji-hoon collapsed on the polished floor, blood pooling beneath him. His vision blurred, but he could hear the chaos around him. Someone was calling for medical assistance. Someone else was shouting accusations at the Vraxians. Council mediator Thelix rushed to Ji-hoon's side, its crystalline form pulsing with distress. Medical team. Immediate assistance required. Ji-hoon tried to speak, but only blood came from his lips. His last conscious thought was of his daughter back on Earth. He had promised to bring her a crystal flower from the station's famous gardens. Now he would never keep that promise. The medical team arrived within minutes, but it was already too late. Ambassador Ji-hoon Park, Earth's representative to the Galactic Council, died on the chamber floor while hundreds of aliens watched. High Chancellor Vrex stood in the Vraxian section, his scales displaying colors of satisfaction. "Let this be a lesson," he announced to the stunned assembly. "The Vraxian hegemony does not tolerate disrespect. This human violated ancient protocols by addressing the council without proper submission. His death was justified under our traditional laws. This is murder." Mediator Thelix's voice crackled with rage. "In the council chamber itself. This violates every law we hold sacred." "Your laws," Vrex corrected, "not ours. We have merely enforced proper order." The council erupted in argument. Some species demanded immediate action against the Vraxians. Others, fearful of the hegemony's military power, called for calm and investigation. A few remained silent, calculating how this development might benefit their own interests. In the end, the council did what it always did when faced with powerful aggressors. They issued a formal condemnation, requested an investigation, and suggested that perhaps both sides shared some blame for the unfortunate incident. The video of Ji-hoon's assassination spread across the galactic network within hours. On Earth, billions of humans watched their ambassador die while aliens debated proper protocol. They saw the Vraxians' smug satisfaction. They heard the Council's weak response. In Earth's military headquarters, Fleet Admiral Seo-Yun Kim watched the video for the 5th time. She had served with Ji-hoon's father during the colonial expansion. She had attended Ji-hoon's graduation from the diplomatic academy. She had recommended him for the ambassador position because he genuinely believed in peace. Now he was dead, murdered for the crime of treating humanity's killers as equals. Admiral Kim's communication panel lit up with an encrypted message from Earth's government. She read the orders once, then read them again, to be certain she understood. She understood perfectly. Admiral Kim stood and walked to her office window, looking out at the fleet of human warships orbiting Earth. Hundreds of vessels, from massive carriers to sleek destroyers, each crewed by men and women who had just watched their ambassador murdered. "Execute Operation Righteous Fire," she said into her command interface. "All fleets are to proceed to designated rally points. Maintain communications silence. No species is to know our intentions until we are ready." Across human space, warships began moving toward the shadows. The Galactic Council chamber buzzed with tense conversation as delegates gathered for an emergency session. 3 days had passed since Ambassador Park's assassination, and the Council had prepared what they considered a diplomatic masterpiece. Council mediator Thelix floated at the center of the chamber, its crystalline form dimmed with exhaustion, mediating between the outraged human representatives and the defiant Vraxians, had drained its energy reserves to dangerous levels. But finally, a solution had been reached. "We call this session to order," Thelix announced. "After extensive deliberation, the Council has determined an appropriate response to the regrettable incident involving the Earth ambassador." A junior human diplomat named Min Jun sat in Earth's section, his face carefully neutral. He was young, barely 30 years old, and had been Ji-hoon's assistant. Now he represented all of humanity, at least temporarily, until Earth appointed a new senior ambassador. The Vraxian hegemony has agreed to issue a formal apology, Thelix continued. They acknowledge that the assassination violated Council Chamber protocols. High Chancellor Vrex himself will read the apology, and Earth will be granted priority speaking rights for the next 3 council sessions as compensation. Murmurs of approval rippled through the chamber. Many species nodded, satisfied that justice had been served without risking conflict with the powerful Vraxians. A formal apology from a species as proud as the Vraxians was considered a significant concession. Minjun stood slowly, his hands gripping the podium. Every eye in the chamber turned toward him. The government of Earth thanks the Council for its efforts, Minjun said, his voice flat and emotionless. However, we must respectfully decline this proposed resolution. Shocked silence fell across the chamber. Decline? The Lix pulsed with confusion. Ambassador Minjun? Perhaps you do not understand. High Chancellor Vrex, agreeing to apologize, is unprecedented. This is a great victory for Earth. A great victory, Minjun repeated slowly. Ambassador Park is dead. His killers stand free and proud, and Earth is offered words as compensation. He paused, letting the words hang in the air. No. High Chancellor Vrex rose from his seat, his scales flushing with anger. You dare refuse the Council's judgment? Your species grows more arrogant by the day. Perhaps another lesson is required. Minjun turned to face the Vraxian section directly. His young face showed no fear, only a cold certainty that made several nearby delegates uncomfortable. High Chancellor, Earth requires no lessons from murderers. The Council will receive Earth's response in due time. Until then, this conversation is over. Minjun gathered his materials and walked out of the chamber. Not another word, not another glance. Simply left, his footsteps echoing in the stunned silence. This is highly irregular, Thelix protested. The human representative cannot simply leave during session. But Minjun was already gone. And within hours, so were all other human diplomats throughout Council space. Every embassy recalled its staff. Every human representative boarded ships and departed without explanation. Requests for communication went unanswered. Demands for clarification were ignored. Within 2 days, not a single human official remained in Council-controlled space. Then the human merchant ships began disappearing. The massive cargo vessels that had been carrying goods between human and alien worlds simply vanished from shipping lanes. No distress calls. No explanations. They just stopped coming. Human colonies went silent. Communication channels that had been constantly active with trade negotiations, cultural exchanges, and casual conversation suddenly carried nothing but static. The galaxy had become used to humanity's constant presence over the past 2 years. Humans were everywhere, eager to learn, quick to adapt, always ready to talk. Their sudden absence felt like a missing tooth, a gap where something should be but wasn't. Admiral Seo Yun Kim stood on the bridge of the EMS, Indomitable, humanity's largest warship, and watched her tactical displays with satisfaction. 17 fleet groups were now in position, each one hidden in the darkness between stars. Every ship maintained strict communication silence. Every crew member understood their mission. Admiral, her tactical officer reported, Vraxian intelligence has detected our fleet movements. They're reading it as intimidation, not actual threat preparation. Good, Kim replied. Let them think we're just posturing. How long until all groups reach final positions? 36 hours, Admiral. Kim nodded. She had spent those 3 days since Jihoon's death planning this operation with Earth's best military minds. They had studied every piece of intelligence on Vraxian military capabilities. They had identified key targets. They had calculated acceptable losses. The numbers were grim. Humanity would lose ships. Humanity would lose lives. But the alternative was worse. If we let this stand, Earth's president had said during the classified briefing. Every species in the galaxy will know they can murder humans without consequence. We'll be prey. Forever. Kim agreed completely. Ambassador Park had been her friend, but this went beyond personal loss. This was about humanity's survival as a free species. Her communication officer interrupted her thoughts. Admiral, we're receiving broadcasts from the Galactic Council. They're demanding we respond to their attempts at contact. Ignore them, Kim ordered. Total communication blackout remains in effect. Across human space, the same scene played out on military vessels and colony worlds. The galaxy wanted explanations. The galaxy wanted assurances. The galaxy wanted humanity to be reasonable and accept their token apology. The galaxy would get none of those things. On the Vraxian homeworld, High Chancellor Vrex presided over a war council. His military commanders reported human fleet movements with varying degrees of concern. The humans are clearly attempting to frighten us, Vrex declared. They mass their primitive ships near our borders and hope we will panic. It is pathetic. My Chancellor, one brave commander ventured. Perhaps we should prepare defensive positions. Human tactics are unpredictable. Vrex's claws slammed against his throne. Defensive positions? Against these newcomers? The Vraxian hegemony has crushed civilizations that had been spacefaring for centuries before Earth even discovered fire. We do not cower before children having tantrums. But some Vraxian commanders were not so confident. They had studied human history as part of standard intelligence gathering. Humans had spent thousands of years fighting each other before joining the galactic community. Their history was an endless catalog of warfare, from primitive spears to nuclear weapons. They had developed more ways to kill each other than most species had developed in their entire existence. They are speaking. One elderly Vraxian admiral muttered to his aide. The humans. They are speaking quite clearly. We are simply choosing not to listen. On the 5th day of silence, Earth finally sent a message. Not to the Council, not to the Vraxians, to everyone, every species, every colony, every ship. It broadcast on every frequency simultaneously, impossible to miss or ignore. The message contained no words, just an image. Ambassador Ji-hoon Park's official portrait, with dates of his birth and death below. And underneath, a single line in a dozen languages. Justice will be served. Admiral Kim watched her countdown timer tick toward 0. In 30 minutes, 17 human fleet groups would simultaneously drop out of faster-than-light travel at their targets. The Vraxian hegemony had no idea what was coming. She thought of Ji-hoon, dying on that cold chamber floor. She thought of his daughter, who would grow up without a father. She thought of every human who would die in the coming battle. All ships, she broadcast on the encrypted command channel. This is Admiral Kim. In a few minutes, we will show the galaxy what happens when they murder our peacemakers. Ambassador Park believed in diplomacy. He believed in cooperation. He believed the galaxy could be better than its worst instincts. She paused, her voice hardening. We are about to prove that his death will not be in vain. Fire at will when we drop from FTL. Show no mercy to military targets. But remember, we are not murderers. We are humanity. We are better than them. Quote. The countdown reached 0. Across 17 systems, human warships appeared like vengeful ghosts. The galaxy's lesson in humanity had begun. The Vraxian military station designated Fortress Prime had existed for 800 years. It guarded the entrance to the hegemony's core systems, bristling with weapons that could destroy entire fleets. No enemy had ever breached its defenses. Many had tried. All had died. The station's commander, a scarred veteran named Krell, was reviewing routine reports when his tactical officer suddenly shrieked in alarm. Contacts. Multiple contacts appearing at grid sections 7 through 15. Krell's head snapped up. How many ships? Counting now, Commander. I have 37. No. 52. Contacts keep appearing. They are human vessels. Battle stations, Krell ordered. His voice calm despite his racing heart. This is what we trained for. Humans are aggressive, but inexperienced. Their ships are inferior. We will crush them and send High Chancellor Vrex their wreckage as a gift. But as Fortress Prime's massive weapons powered up, the human ships did something unexpected. Instead of forming neat battle lines like any sensible fleet, they scattered in all directions. Some accelerated directly toward the station. Others angled away. Several appeared to be heading toward nearby asteroids. "What are they doing?" Krell's tactical officer asked. "This formation makes no sense." It made perfect sense to Admiral Kim, who watched the battle unfold from 3 systems away through data transmitted by scout ships. She had studied Earth's military history extensively: ancient naval tactics, World War fighter squadron formations, guerrilla warfare strategies. The galaxy fought space battles like orderly duels. Humanity fought like the survivors of 10,000 years of warfare. The rested, at Fortress Prime, the Vraxian gunners opened fire on the nearest human vessels. Their plasma cannons, perfected over centuries, struck true. 2 human destroyers exploded instantly. A third lost its engine section and tumbled away, leaking atmosphere. But while the Vraxians concentrated on those obvious targets, the other human ships executed their real plan. The vessels that had headed toward asteroids now emerged, pushing massive rocks toward the station using their engines. The rocks weren't large enough to destroy Fortress Prime, but they didn't need to be. The asteroids forced the station to divide its fire, as weapons turrets tracked the incoming rocks. Human ships that had seemed to be retreating suddenly reversed course and accelerated directly toward the station at maximum speed. "Suicide run," Krell shouted. "They are attempting kamikaze attacks. Focus all fire on those vessels." The term kamikaze meant nothing to the Vraxians, but they understood the threat. Ships loaded with explosives could seriously damage even Fortress Prime if they impacted. Every weapon turned toward the charging human vessels. The human ships absorbed terrible damage. One after another, they died in bursts of fire and shattered metal. But 3 got through. 3 ships, their armor melted and systems failing, crashed directly into Fortress Prime's weapon clusters. The explosions tore massive holes in the station's defensive grid, and through those holes came the rest of the human fleet. Krell watched in horror as human marines in combat armor used the breaches to board his station. The invaders fought with a ferocity that shocked the veteran Vraxian defenders. These humans didn't retreat when wounded. They didn't surrender when surrounded. They fought until killed or victorious. "They are insane," Krell's second officer gasped, watching security feeds show humans throwing themselves at Vraxian defensive positions. They accept casualties that would break any rational species. But Kim's Marines weren't insane. They were following a doctrine developed in the bloody wars of Earth's 20th century. Take the objective, whatever the cost. Win the battle, mourn the dead later. In 16 other systems, similar scenes played out. Vraxian commanders discovered that humans refused to fight the way space battles were supposed to be fought. They used ambush tactics, hiding near planets and moons. They employed psychological warfare, broadcasting messages about avenging murdered Ambassador Park that made some younger Vraxian soldiers hesitate. They sacrificed pawns to capture queens, trading disposable drones for critical installations. At the Vraxian fleet staging area in the Korath system, Admiral Vesh faced a human attack wing with confidence. Her forces outnumbered the humans 3-1. Victory was certain. Then the human ships released thousands of small objects that scattered across the battlefield like seeds in wind. "What are those?" Vesh demanded. Her sensors operator studied the readings. They appeared to be simple metal spheres. No engines, no weapons, just debris. The spheres were moving too fast to be simple debris. Each one was a kinetic kill vehicle. A chunk of dense metal accelerated to a significant fraction of light speed. No guidance systems. No explosives. Just mass and velocity. Physics did the rest. The Vraxian formation shattered as hypersonic projectiles tore through ship after ship. Armor that could withstand plasma bolts offered no protection against solid objects moving at relativistic speeds. A sphere the size of a fist punched through a battleship like it was paper. Admiral Vesh's flagship took 3 hits in rapid succession. The bridge decompressed. Vesh's last thought was that these primitive humans had just used weapons older than spaceflight itself to destroy a modern fleet. High Chancellor Vrex received the first reports of the attacks, with disbelief, then rage, then growing fear. In 6 hours, humanity had destroyed or disabled nearly 60% of the Vraxian military's forward assets. Fortress Prime had fallen. The Korath staging area was gone. 17 critical installations were either captured or burning. How? Vrex roared at his senior military staff. How are these primitives doing this? An intelligence analyst, knowing he might be killed for speaking truth, answered anyway. My Chancellor. The humans are not fighting like a spacefaring species. They are fighting like humans. They use tactics from their own history, methods we have never encountered. They accept casualties we would consider catastrophic. They improvise constantly. And they are very, very angry. Vrex's communication panel lit with an incoming transmission. He almost ignored it, but something made him answer. Admiral Kim's face appeared on the screen. She wore the dark blue uniform of Earth's fleet, with 4 stars on her collar. Her expression was cold enough to freeze atmosphere. High Chancellor Vrex, she said simply. I am Fleet Admiral Seo Yoon Kim of the Earth military. I was a friend of Ambassador Ji-hoon Park. You murdered him. You dare threaten the Vraxian hegemony? Vrex sputtered. You will be crushed. We will reduce Earth to radioactive dust. No, Kim replied calmly. You won't. In the past 6 hours, we have demonstrated what happens when you kill our diplomats. This is not a threat, Chancellor. This is a certainty. We are currently surrounding your homeworld. Our weapons are targeting every military installation on the surface. We can end your civilization in minutes. Vrex's blood ran cold. You lie. No fleet could reach our core systems so quickly. Kim smiled, but it never reached her eyes. High Chancellor, we have been planning this operation since the moment you murdered Ambassador Park. While your forces scrambled to respond to our attacks in the outer systems, our main battle groups were approaching your homeworld. Check your sensors. Vrex's tactical officer confirmed what he already feared. Massive human fleet signatures surrounded the Vraxian homeworld. Enough firepower to crack the planet's crust. This is what happens when you mistake peaceful for harmless, Kim continued. Ambassador Park sought peace because he believed in a better galaxy. You killed him for it. Vrex tried to speak but couldn't find words. We are not like you, Kim said. We don't enjoy this. Every human who died today, I will remember. Every ship we lost, I will mourn. But we will not allow our people to be murdered without consequences. Never again. The transmission ended. Vrex stood in his command center, surrounded by his panicking staff, and realized he had made a terrible mistake. These humans were not primitive upstarts. They were survivors of a world that had tried to kill them for millions of years. They had learned to fight by fighting each other for thousands of generations. They had developed weapons and tactics in hundreds of wars before they even left their planet. The Vraxian hegemony had 3,000 years of proud military tradition. But humanity had learned to wage war before they learned to write. The emergency meeting of the Galactic Council convened in chaos. Delegates shouted over each other, their translation devices creating a cacophony of overlapping voices. At the center of it all, Council mediator Thelix pulsed with distress, trying desperately to restore order. Please, distinguished delegates, we must have order. But order was impossible. In just 8 hours, humanity had accomplished what no species had done in 3,000 years. They had broken the Vraxian military machine. Reports continued flooding in from across hegemony space. Fortress Prime captured. Fleet staging areas destroyed. Military installations burning. And most shocking of all, human warships surrounding the Vraxian homeworld itself. The delegate from the Quellan Collective, a peaceful species of plant-based beings, spoke with obvious fear. "We must intervene. The humans will destroy an entire world. Billions of Vraxian civilians. Why should we interfere?" snapped the delegate from the Corthan Union. "The Vraxians have terrorized smaller species for centuries. Perhaps they are finally receiving what they deserve." A heated argument erupted. Some species feared humanity's military power. Others secretly celebrated seeing the Vraxians humbled. A few calculated how this shift in power might benefit their own interests. Admiral Kim watched the Council's chaos through a transmitted feed and felt nothing but contempt. These were the aliens who had offered her friend's murder as a regrettable incident, requiring only an apology. Now they panicked because humanity had actually responded to being wronged. "Admiral," her communication officer reported, "we are receiving a transmission from the Vraxian homeworld. It is not from High Chancellor Vrex. The signal identifies the sender as Defense Minister Kral." Tension 17. Kim's tactical display showed Vraxian military units on the planet's surface standing down from defensive positions. Interesting. A coup, perhaps? Or simply the Vraxian military recognizing reality? She accepted the transmission. The Vraxian who appeared on screen was older than Vrex, his scales gray with age. Unlike the High Chancellor's arrogant posture, this one looked tired and resigned. "Admiral Kim," Defense Minister Kral said, his voice carrying no hostility. "I am authorized to negotiate on behalf of the Vraxian government." "You mean you have deposed High Chancellor Vrex?" Kim replied bluntly. Kral didn't deny it. "My Chancellor made a grave error. He believed humanity was weak because you preferred peace. He did not understand that choosing peace is different from being incapable of war. The Vraxian military leadership has removed him from power. We wish to discuss terms." Kim leaned back in her command chair. This was the moment she had been preparing for. Earth's government had given her broad authority, but with clear limits. "Terms are simple, Minister. You will surrender everyone involved in Ambassador Park's assassination. They will face trial under neutral galactic law. The Vraxian hegemony will accept responsibility for the murder and make formal restitution. Your military will withdraw from disputed territories and reduce your fleet by 40%. You will sign a non-aggression treaty with Earth and our allied species." "These terms are harsh," Kral observed. "Some will call them humiliating." "Your alternative is annihilation," Kim replied coldly. "Choose." Kral was silent for a long moment. Then he nodded slowly. "I will need time to convince the military council. Some of our commanders will want to fight on. Despite the odds. You have 6 hours, Kim said. If I don't have your answer by then, I will assume you have chosen extinction." The transmission ended. On the Vraxian homeworld, Defense Minister Kral addressed the hastily assembled military council. High Chancellor Vrex sat in restraints, his scales dulled with shock at his sudden fall from power. "We face a choice," Kral told his fellow commanders. "We can fight and die with honor, taking these humans with us, or we can accept their terms and survive as a diminished but living civilization." "Never," General Throck roared. "The Vraxian hegemony does not surrender. We should launch everything we have at those human ships. If we die as warriors. If we die as fools," Kral countered. "Look at what these humans have accomplished in hours. They crippled our military across 17 systems, while simultaneously moving a massive fleet into our core systems. They anticipated our every move. They knew exactly where to strike for maximum effect. This was not luck. This was planning and capability we completely underestimated." An older admiral spoke up. "Defense Minister, I have reviewed the tactical reports. The humans are using warfare methods we have never encountered. They seem to have thousands of years of experience in organized violence. How is this possible? They only achieved spaceflight recently, because they spent those thousands of years fighting each other, Kral replied. While we were conquering weaker species, they were learning to defeat equals. Every human war taught them new ways to kill. Every human peace was just time to prepare for the next war. We face a species that evolved warfare, as other species evolved speech. Then we are doomed regardless. Another commander muttered. No, Kral said firmly. Because these humans also evolved mercy. Notice that Admiral Kim could have destroyed our homeworld already. She has not. She offers terms instead of annihilation. This suggests they can be reasoned with, if we are willing to accept reality. The council debated for hours. Some argued for honorable death. Others pointed out that honor meant nothing to the dead. Finally, with only minutes remaining before Admiral Kim's deadline, they reached a decision. Kral transmitted their acceptance of terms. 2 days later, High Chancellor Vrex and 17 co-conspirators were handed over to human custody in neutral space. The transfer occurred aboard a council security station, with representatives from multiple species present as witnesses. Vrex, in restraints, glared at Admiral Kim with undisguised hatred. You have won nothing, human. Yes, you defeated us militarily, but you will become the very thing you fought against. Your people will grow to enjoy their power. They will become conquerors, just like us. Kim met his gaze without flinching. No, Chancellor, because we remember why we did this. We remember Ambassador Park, who believed in peace. We remember that we fight only when forced. You thought our peace meant weakness. You learned differently. But we are not like you. We do not seek dominance. We seek justice. The prisoners were led away to await trial. The Galactic Council convened once more, this time with a very different atmosphere. The delegates who had offered weak condemnation of Park's assassination now fell over themselves to praise Earth's restraint and measured response. Council mediator Thalix addressed the assembly, with Admiral Kim present via holographic transmission. The Council recognizes that our initial response to Ambassador Park's assassination was inadequate. We failed to provide justice. We failed to protect a member species from violence. We failed in our most basic duty. The Council offers its deepest apologies to the people of Earth. Kim accepted the apology with a simple nod. But she had more to say. The galaxy must understand something clearly. Humanity prefers peace. We genuinely want cooperation and friendship with other species. Ambassador Park represented the best of us, and we will continue his mission of building bridges between worlds. But know this, we will never again allow our people to be murdered without response. We will always protect our own. We can be your greatest allies or your worst enemies. The choice is yours. The galaxy chose alliance. 5 months after the war ended, a formal trial concluded at the neutral court station. High Chancellor Vrex and his conspirators faced justice before a panel of judges representing 12 different species. The evidence presented was overwhelming. Communications showed the assassination had been planned weeks in advance. Security footage captured every detail. Witness testimony from hundreds of delegates confirmed the basic facts. The defense argued that Ambassador Park had violated Vraxian cultural protocols, making his death justified under hegemony law. The prosecution, led by a team of human and alien lawyers, countered that galactic law superseded local customs when crimes occurred in council space. The verdict came quickly. Guilty on all counts. Murder, conspiracy, and violation of diplomatic protections. The sentencing took longer. Some judges argued for execution. Others wanted permanent imprisonment. The debate continued for days, broadcast across the galaxy, for all to see. Finally, the chief judge, an ancient being from a species known for wisdom, announced the decision. The court finds that these defendants acted with premeditation and malice. They murdered a diplomat under the protection of the Galactic Council. Their actions nearly caused a war that could have killed millions. For these crimes, the defendants are sentenced to life imprisonment on the neutral prison world of Tartarus Station. They will serve their sentences under galactic supervision, ensuring no species can simply retrieve them when attention fades. Vrex, hearing his fate, laughed bitterly. Life imprisonment? I am 300 years old. I will die in your prison within decades. You call this justice? Life imprisonment. The chief judge's response was cold. Justice is not about revenge, former chancellor. It is about preventing future crimes and demonstrating consequences. Your imprisonment serves both purposes. You will have time to contemplate your actions. Others will learn from your fate. Vrex was led away, still cursing humanity and the council both. Admiral Kim watched the sentencing from Earth's military headquarters. She felt no satisfaction, no joy. Justice had been served, but it had required a terrible price. 700 human service members had died in the war. Thousands more carried injuries. Entire Vraxian cities lay in ruins from orbital bombardment of military targets. She thought of Ji-hoon, who had wanted peace so badly. Would he have approved of what she had done? She liked to think he would understand, if not approve. Sometimes peace had to be defended with violence. The Galactic Council underwent massive reforms in the war's aftermath. Security protocols were strengthened. New laws protected diplomatic personnel. Most importantly, the Council established a rapid response force that could actually enforce its decisions, rather than relying on empty condemnations. Humanity gained 3 permanent seats on the Council's Security Committee. Other species might have resented this rapid rise in influence, but no one could deny that Earth had earned it. When the moment came, humans had proven they could back their words with actions. The Vraxian hegemony transformed as well. New leadership emerged, younger Vraxians who had grown up during the brief war and learned hard lessons from it. They implemented democratic reforms, abolished their military caste system, and began making amends to species they had oppressed. 1 year after the war, Admiral Kim stood at a memorial on Earth, overlooking the Pacific Ocean. The monument was simple. A granite wall, inscribed with the names of everyone who died during the conflict. At the top, larger than the rest, was Ambassador Ji-hoon Park's name. Below his name, an inscription read, "He sought peace. We ensured his death would not be in vain." A young Vraxian approached the memorial hesitantly. Kim tensed instinctively, her hand moving toward her sidearm before she caught herself. The Vraxian noticed and stopped, raising her hands in a gesture of peace. "Admiral Kim?" the Vraxian asked in carefully practiced English. "I am Junior Ambassador Sila. I serve in the new Vraxian Diplomatic Corps. I wanted to pay respects to Ambassador Park." Kim studied the young alien carefully. Sila's scales showed colors of nervousness and genuine regret. She carried flowers, which surprised Kim until she remembered that many species had adopted the human custom of leaving flowers at graves. "You're welcome to approach," Kim said, stepping aside. Sila laid the flowers at the base of the memorial, then read the inscription slowly. "He sought peace," she repeated quietly. "My people killed him for it. I was only a student when it happened. I believed the propaganda that humans were weak and needed to be controlled. The war taught me differently." 1. "What did it teach you?" Kim asked. "That choosing peace requires more strength than choosing violence," Sila replied. "That your Ambassador Park was braver than all our warriors combined. He faced hostile species armed only with words and hope. That takes courage we Vraxians never understood." Kim felt something loosen in her chest, a tension she hadn't realized she carried. "Why did you come here, Ambassador Sila?" "Because I want to continue what Ambassador Park started," Sila said. "I want to prove that his belief in cooperation wasn't foolish. That peace is possible. My government sent me to Earth as part of our cultural exchange program. I hope to learn from humans, to understand you better, to build the bridges your ambassador dreamed of." Kim extended her hand in the human gesture of greeting. Scylla hesitated, then carefully grasped it, trying to match the firm handshake despite having very different anatomy. "Welcome to Earth, Ambassador," Kim said. "Ji-hoon would have liked meeting you." 5 years passed. The galaxy had changed. Trade flourished between species who had barely spoken before. Human technology spread, particularly their medical advances and environmental restoration techniques. In return, humans learned alien sciences, arts, and philosophies. The Vraxian hegemony was now simply the Vraxian Republic, a democratic government that actively participated in galactic cooperation rather than demanding dominance. Some former hegemony commanders grumbled about lost glory, but most Vraxians appreciated not living under constant military rule. Ambassador Scylla worked alongside humans at the rebuilt council chambers. She had become friends with Min Jun, the young human who had walked out of that session 5 years ago. Together, they developed new protocols for resolving disputes peacefully. "Do you think we've succeeded?" Min Jun asked one day, as they reviewed a new trade agreement between Earth and Vraxian colonies. "Would Ambassador Park think we've honored his memory?" Scylla considered the question carefully. "I never met him, but I've read everything he wrote. Every speech, every diplomatic proposal. I think he would be proud, not just of the peace, but of how we achieved it. We didn't forget what happened. We didn't pretend everything was fine. We acknowledged the harm, demanded justice, and then chose to move forward together. Justice first, then peace," Min Jun agreed. Not peace at any cost. They worked in comfortable silence for a while. Outside the windows, ships from a dozen species docked at the station. Traders, diplomats, tourists, students. The galaxy was more connected than ever before. Admiral Kim had retired from military service, but remained an advisor to Earth's government. She spent her days at the academy, teaching young officers about strategy, ethics, and the terrible responsibility of command. "War is sometimes necessary," she told her students, "but never forget its cost. I made decisions that killed thousands of Vraxians and hundreds of our own people. I carry those deaths with me every day. If you ever find yourself enjoying warfare, if battle becomes something you seek rather than something you endure, then you have lost your humanity. We fight only when we must, and we grieve even our victories." The students listened intently. Many had been children during the brief war. They had grown up in its shadow, understanding that their peaceful galaxy had been purchased with blood. On the anniversary of Ambassador Park's death, humanity held a day of remembrance, not celebration of victory, but quiet reflection on the cost of peace. People gathered at memorials across Earth and the colonies. They read the names of those who died. They shared stories of Ji-hoon Park and his dream of a cooperative galaxy. The Vraxian Republic declared it a day of atonement. Schools taught students about the assassination and the war it caused. Young Vraxians learned that violence against diplomats was not strength, but cowardice. That true power came from cooperation, not domination. Other species observed the remembrance in their own ways. Some held vigils. Others hosted discussions about diplomatic protection and conflict resolution. The galaxy had learned its lesson. At the memorial on Earth, now surrounded by gardens representing species from across the galaxy, they watched the sunset together, each thinking about how far they had come. "Do you think peace will last?" Scylla asked. Kim smiled slightly. "Honestly, there will be other conflicts, other misunderstandings. The galaxy has too many species with different interests and values for perfect harmony. But I think we've established something important. We've proven that problems can be solved through dialogue when everyone acts in good faith. And we've proven what happens when someone acts in bad faith. Humanity answers with fire," Scylla said quietly, remembering the war. "No," Kim corrected gently. "Humanity answers with justice. Fire is just one tool we use to achieve it. When that was denied, we sought justice through force. But justice was always the goal, not violence for its own sake." Scylla understood. That was the lesson the galaxy had learned at terrible cost. Humanity was not pacifist. They were not weak, but they were not conquerors either. They simply insisted on being treated with respect, and they would enforce that respect if necessary. As the sun set, casting long shadows across the memorial, Kim thought of Ji-hoon one last time. She hoped he knew, wherever he was, that his death had not been meaningless. The peaceful galaxy he dreamed of had not fully arrived. But it was closer. Step by step, day by day. Built on the foundation he had laid, and protected by those willing to defend it. He sought peace. Kim read the inscription again. We ensured his death would not be in vain. Mission accomplished, old friend, she thought. Mission accomplished. Retry Claude can make mistakes. Please double-check responses. The sky above Seoul turned purple without warning. Captain Min-jun Park looked up from his morning coffee and watched as massive shapes pushed through the clouds. They were ships, bigger than anything humanity had ever built. So big that they blocked out the sun over half the city. Min-jun ran to his communication panel. His hands moved fast across the controls. Around the world, every screen flickered and showed the same image. Giant figures appeared in the sky. They looked like humans but perfect. Too perfect. Their eyes glowed with white light. Their voices came from everywhere at once. People of Earth, the voice said. It spoke every language at the same time. We are the Velkari. We are your creators. We are your gods. We seeded life on your world 10,000 years ago. Now we have returned to claim what is ours. You will worship us. You will serve us. This is your purpose. Min-jun felt his stomach turn. He had heard words like this before. When he was a child, his parents joined a cult. The leaders claimed they spoke to gods. They promised salvation. They took everything his parents had. Then, they took his parents' lives. Min-jun learned early that anyone who claimed to be a god was either a liar or a fool. He pressed the emergency button. Within seconds, he connected to the Earth Defense Fleet Command Center. General Martinez appeared on the screen. Her face was tight with worry. Captain Park, get to your ship now, she said. All fleet officers are being recalled. This is not a drill. Min-jun grabbed his uniform jacket and ran. Outside, people stood in the streets. They stared up at the sky with open mouths. Some were crying. Others were on their knees. The massive holographic figures walked through the clouds like giants. They pointed down at cities. They spoke of ancient times and divine plans. At the spaceport, Min-jun found his crew already preparing the EDF Indomitable for launch. Lieutenant Sarah Chen met him at the airlock. Her face was pale, but her eyes were angry. Sir, are you seeing this? She asked. They're calling themselves gods. I see it, Min-jun said. Get us in orbit. I want a close look at these so-called gods. The Indomitable lifted off with 50 other Earth ships. They climbed through the atmosphere and into space. What they saw made everyone go quiet. The Velkari fleet filled the space above Earth. Hundreds of ships hung in perfect formation. Each one was shaped like a crystal cathedral. Light poured from them in waves. Beautiful. Terrifying. But Min-jun looked closer. He told his scanner officer to analyze the light patterns. After 10 minutes, the officer turned around with a confused look. Captain, the light shows are just holograms, he said. Very advanced ones. But still holograms. And the ships follow normal physics. They use engines. They have heat signatures. Nothing about them breaks the laws of nature. Min-jun smiled. Not a happy smile. A smile that said he knew he was right. They're not gods. They're just aliens, with good, special effects. On Earth, the world leaders gathered in emergency sessions. The Velkari message played again and again. They demanded that humanity build temples. They wanted offerings of resources, They wanted humans to bow down and accept their rule. They gave humanity 1 full day to respond. In the United Earth Government Chamber, the debate was fierce. Some leaders wanted to submit. They said the Valkyrie were too powerful to fight. Others wanted to negotiate. They hoped to find a peaceful solution. But a growing number wanted to refuse. Ambassador Okonkwo from the African Union stood up. My ancestors were told they were less than human. They were told to bow to masters who claimed superiority. They refused. They fought. They won their freedom. I will not dishonor their memory by kneeling to anyone who demands worship. The vote took 3 hours. In the end, the decision was clear. Earth would not submit without proof. Real proof. Not light shows and pretty words. High Celestial Zarthun received Earth's response aboard his flagship. He read the message 3 times. His face showed complete confusion. In 3,000 years of service, across 47 worlds, no one had ever questioned his divinity. Every species had accepted the Valkyrie as gods within days. Most within hours. They want proof? He said to his second officer. We appeared in their sky. We demonstrated our power. We spoke to their entire world at once. What more proof do they need? Proof. His officer looked uncomfortable. The humans have sent detailed questions, High Celestial. They ask how we created them. They want genetic evidence. They request historical records. They have analyzed our ships and claim we use technology, not divine power. Zarthun felt something he had not felt in centuries. Anger. Pure. Hot. Anger. These primitive beings dared to question him. They dared to analyze his sacred fleet, like it was a common machine. He opened a channel to Earth. His face appeared on every screen again. This time, he did not look kind. He looked cold. Humanity, he said. You have 1 cycle to reconsider. Build your temples. Prepare your offerings. Accept your place in the divine order, or you will learn why gods are meant to be feared. We have destroyed worlds before. We can destroy yours. Choose wisely. The transmission ended. Zarthun sat back in his throne. He felt certain the humans would submit now. They always did, after the first threat. On the Indomitable, Minjun watched the transmission with his crew. When it ended, Sarah turned to him. They threatened to destroy our world, she said. Yes, Minjun replied. They did. What do we do? Minjun looked at the Valkyrie fleet hanging above Earth like a sword. He thought about his parents. He thought about every lie he had ever been told. He thought about every bully who tried to make others bow through fear. We get ready to fight, he said. Because I've learned something important in my life. Real gods don't need to threaten people. Real gods don't need to prove they're gods. And anyone who demands worship is someone who doesn't deserve it. Around Earth, the military began to move. Ships launched from every spaceport. Weapons were loaded. Soldiers suited up. The government sent out one more message to the Valkyrie. We do not bow to anyone. Prove your claims or leave our system in peace. In the sky above Earth, the Valkyrie ships began to glow brighter. They prepared their weapons. War was coming, and for the first time in their long history, the Valkyrie would face an enemy who refused to be afraid of gods. Earth did not sleep. While the Valkyrie deadline counted down, scientists worked in labs around the world. They studied every second of the alien broadcasts. Historians searched through old records. Religious scholars compared the Valkyrie claims to ancient texts. Everyone looked for the same thing: proof. Any proof that these aliens had created humanity. They found nothing. Dr. Rebecca Walsh led the genetic research team in Geneva. She ran DNA tests for 30 hours straight. Her eyes were red from staring at screens. When she finished, she called the United Earth government with her report. There is no alien DNA in humans, she said. Our evolution is completely natural. Every fossil, every genetic marker, everything points to us developing right here on Earth. If the Velkari created us, they left no trace. Similar reports came from every research center. The Velkari story had holes everywhere. They claimed to have seeded Earth 10,000 years ago. But human civilization went back further than that. They claimed to have guided human development. But they could not name a single specific event they had influenced. Their knowledge of Earth was shallow, like someone who had read a basic report but never actually been there. Captain Min-jun Park received new orders on the second day. General Martinez appeared on his screen, looking tired, but determined. "Captain, we need close-up intelligence on those ships," she said. "Take a stealth team. Get close enough to scan them properly. Find out what we're really dealing with." Min-jun chose 5 small ships for the mission. Each one used experimental stealth technology. They would be nearly invisible to sensors. Nearly. If the Velkari were really gods, they would see through the stealth easily. If they were just advanced aliens, the ships might work. The team launched at night. They drifted toward the Velkari fleet on minimum power. No active sensors. No communications. Just silent watching. Min-jun piloted his ship himself. His hands were steady on the controls. He had done this before. Not with aliens, but with people who used fear and lies to control others. When he was 12, Min-jun had sneaked into the cult compound to find his parents. He watched the leaders from hiding. He saw how they used simple tricks to seem powerful. Smoke machines, hidden speakers, prepared answers to common questions. When his parents died, Min-jun promised himself he would never let lies go unchallenged again. The stealth ships reached the Velkari fleet. Min-jun activated passive scanners. The data that came back was fascinating. The Velkari ships were incredibly advanced. Their technology was centuries ahead of Earth's. But it was still technology. Reactors, engines, computers. Everything followed the rules of physics. Lieutenant Chen's voice came through on tight beam communication. "Captain, I'm picking up something interesting. The holographic projectors are separate systems. If those get damaged, the light shows stop working." Another pilot reported on the weapons. "Sir, their main guns use concentrated energy. Powerful, but they need time to charge. And they generate a lot of heat before firing." Min-jun recorded everything. After 6 hours, they had a complete picture. The Velkari were dangerous. They were advanced. But they were not gods. They were just very old aliens with very good technology. On the way back, Min-jun's communications officer picked up a strange signal. It was encrypted but weak, like it was not meant to be found. The officer worked on it for an hour and finally broke the code. "Captain, you need to hear this," she said. The recording played. It was a Velkari voice speaking their own language. The computer translated it. Updating Conquest Database. Species 47. The Rithani. Submitted after Standard Divine Manifestation Protocol. Initial resistance lasted only 4 hours. They are now building temples as required. Total casualties. Minimal. The key was threatening their children. They folded immediately. Min-jun felt sick. Then the recording continued. Species 48, humanity, is not responding to standard protocol. High Celestial Zarthun is confused. Recommend we review archives for similar cases of resistance. The officer looked at Min-jun. "Sir, there are hundreds of these recordings. They've done this before. Many times. It's a script. They arrive, claim to be gods, and species give up. But no one ever fought back," Min-jun said quietly. "No, sir. We're the first." Back on Earth, Min-jun delivered his report to the United Earth government. He showed them everything. The scans, the recordings, the truth about the Velkari's previous conquests. Ambassador Okonkwo stood up again. "So they're slavers. Liars who use fear to make species surrender without a fight. That's exactly what they are, Minjun confirmed. Then we know what we have to do, she said. But not everyone agreed. Some leaders argued that even if the Velkari were not gods, they were still too powerful to fight. Their technology was too advanced. Earth would lose. General Martinez spoke up. Maybe we lose. Maybe we all die. But I would rather die free than live as a slave to liars. My vote is to fight. The debate lasted through the night. While they argued, Earth's factories worked at full speed. Every shipyard built weapons. Every military base called up reserves. Evacuation plans moved civilians away from cities. Humanity prepared for war even before the decision was official. The deadline arrived. The Velkari broadcasted again. Zarthun's face appeared across Earth. He looked calm. Too calm. Humanity, he said. Your time is up. The United Earth government sent their response. Ambassador Okonkwo delivered it personally. Velkari. We have studied your claims carefully. We find no evidence that you created us. We have analyzed your ships and found only technology, not divine power. We acknowledge you are advanced, but we do not acknowledge you as gods. Leave our system in peace, or stay as friends and equals. But we will not bow to you. Not now. Not ever. The transmission ended. For a long moment, there was silence. On the Velkari flagship, Zarthun stared at the screen. His face showed no emotion. Then, slowly, he began to laugh. It was not a happy laugh. It was the laugh of someone who had been insulted and planned revenge. They dare, he whispered. They actually dare to refuse me. He turned to his weapons officer. Target their moon base. The one with 3,000 personnel. Destroy it completely. Let them watch their people die. Let them understand the price of defying gods. On Earth, alarms blared. Military sensors detected the Velkari ships charging weapons. The target was clear. Luna Base. The moon colony where 3,000 people lived and worked. Minjun was at fleet command when the alert came. He grabbed General Martinez's arm. Can we stop it? She looked at him with sad eyes. Not in time. They're too far away. Too powerful. They watched on screens as the Velkari fired. A beam of pure energy crossed space in seconds. It hit Luna Base directly. The base simply vanished, turned to dust and debris. 3,000 people died instantly. Earth went silent. Every person who saw it felt the same shock, the same horror. Then, slowly, the shock turned to something else. Anger. Pure, burning anger. Minjun felt it too. But his anger was cold, focused. He had seen bullies before. He knew what they did. They hurt someone weak to scare everyone else. They expected tears and surrender. They would not get it from humanity. General Martinez received 10,000 volunteers in the first hour. Every pilot wanted to fight. Every soldier wanted revenge. The United Earth government voted again. This time, there was no debate. The vote was unanimous. War. Minjun walked to his ship. His crew was already there, preparing for launch. Sarah Chen looked at him with hard eyes. We're going to make them pay, right, sir? She asked. Yes, Minjun said. We're going to show them what happens when you hurt humans. We're going to teach these fake gods that they bleed just like everyone else. Above Earth, the Velkari fleet waited. Zarthun expected surrender any moment. He had destroyed their moon base. Surely now they understood. Surely now they would bow. But Earth's response was not prayers. It was warships. Hundreds of them launched toward the Velkari fleet. Small compared to the alien vessels. Primitive compared to their technology. But coming fast and ready to fight, Zarthun watched them approach. For the first time in his long life, he felt something strange. A tiny seed of doubt. These humans were supposed to be afraid. Why were they attacking? He shook off the feeling. It did not matter. He would crush them. He would show them why the Valkyrie ruled the galaxy. He would prove that gods always won in the end. But he did not know humans. He did not understand what they were capable of when pushed too far. He did not realize that humanity had spent its entire history killing false gods. He was about to learn. The human fleet came in fast. 200 ships against the Valkyrie armada. Every captain knew the odds. Every crew understood they might die. Nobody cared. Luna Base was gone. 3,000 people were dead. That blood demanded an answer. Captain Min Jun Park led the attack. The Indomitable flew at the front of the formation. His crew worked their stations with cold efficiency. No one spoke unless necessary. They had a job to do. General Martinez's voice came through on command channel. All ships, listen up. We're not trying to win this battle. Not yet. We're trying to learn. We need to know how they fight, what their weaknesses are. Get in close. Hit them hard. Make them react. And record everything. The Valkyrie fleet moved to intercept. Their ships formed a wall of crystal and light. They looked beautiful. Peaceful, even. Then, they opened fire. The first volley destroyed 15 human ships instantly. Energy beams cut through armor like paper. Explosions lit up space. Min Jun watched friends die on his scanners. He felt his jaw tighten. But he kept flying forward. All ships, scatter pattern Delta, he commanded. Make them split their fire. The human fleet broke apart. Ships went in every direction. Some went up, some went down. Others rolled sideways and came around from different angles. The Valkyrie had to choose targets. They could not hit everything at once. Min Jun saw an opening. One of the Valkyrie cruisers had fired its main gun. The weapon was recharging. Heat poured from cooling vents on its side. He aimed his ship directly at those vents. All power to forward shields, he ordered. Chen, prepare the nuclear package. Sarah Chen looked at him. She understood what he was planning. It was crazy. It might work. She armed the warhead. The Indomitable dove toward the Valkyrie cruiser. Smaller weapons fired at them. Shields sparked and failed. Hull plates melted, but they kept going. At the last second, Min Jun rolled the ship and released the warhead directly into the cooling vents. Punch it, he shouted. The ship's engines fired at maximum. They barely cleared the blast radius. Behind them, the nuclear warhead went deep into the Valkyrie ship before exploding. The cruiser's hull split open. Internal explosions followed. The entire ship began to break apart. On the Valkyrie flagship, alarms blared. Zarthun stared at the tactical display. One of his cruisers was dying. A human ship had actually damaged a Valkyrie vessel. Impossible. These primitives with their crude weapons should not be able to hurt his fleet. How did they do that? He demanded. His tactical officer studied the recordings. High Celestial. They targeted our cooling systems during weapon recharge. They used a nuclear device at close range. The radiation and heat overwhelmed the internal shields. Zarthun felt anger rise. But also something else. Respect? No. These were not worthy of respect. They were insects. Dangerous insects. All ships, focus fire. Destroy the human fleet completely. No survivors. The Valkyrie changed tactics. They stopped trying to look impressive. They started trying to kill efficiently. Ship after ship died. The human fleet was being torn apart. But while they fought, Min Jun's cyber warfare team worked. They had one job: get into the Valkyrie network. Every second of battle, they tried to break through the alien firewalls. They failed again and again. Until they did not. A small data port on the damaged cruiser was still active. Its shields were down. The cyber team sent a worm program through the gap. It spread fast through the Valkyrie network. Not attacking, just copying. Downloading everything it could find. The data came back to the Indomitable in seconds. Min Jun's computer officer started reading through it. Her eyes went wide. "See home. See. Captain. You need to see this. Right now." Min Jun looked at the screen while dodging fire. What he saw made him forget the battle for a moment. The file was labeled Divine Conquest Protocol. Historical Implementation Guide. It was an instruction manual. A step-by-step guide on how to make species think you were a god. What to say. How to appear. What threats worked best on different types of civilizations. It even had notes about which species had been easiest to fool. But there was more. Much more. The file contained the Velkari's own history, and it was not what they claimed. 3,000 years ago, the Velkari had been slaves themselves. Another species had ruled them using the same tricks. Claiming to be gods. Demanding worship. The Velkari had suffered for centuries. Then, they rebelled. They killed their masters. They took their technology. And then they became exactly what they had hated. They used the same lies on other species. They convinced themselves it was their right. Their destiny. They became the monsters that had once tortured them. Min Jun read it all in seconds. Then he made a decision. "Broadcast this on all frequencies," he said. "Human frequencies. Velkari frequencies. Everything. I want every species in their empire to see the truth." His communications officer hesitated. "Sir, that will expose our position. Every Velkari ship will target us." "I know," Min Jun said. "Do it anyway." The broadcast went out. Every ship in the battle received it. The Velkari history. Their lies. The proof that they were not gods. Just old aliens who learned that fear was easier than earning respect. On the flagship, Zarthun heard the broadcast. He watched as his own history played for everyone to see. His face went pale, then red, then white again. "Find that ship," he whispered. "Find it and destroy it. Now." 50 Velkari ships turned toward the Indomitable. Every weapon locked on. Min Jun saw them coming. He opened his ship-wide channel. "Crew, it's been an honor. If we die here, we die knowing we told the truth. And sometimes, that's enough." Sarah Chen smiled. "Sir, request permission to say something inappropriate." "Granted. Let's show these fake gods what real humans do." The Velkari fired. Every weapon at once. Enough energy to destroy a city. All aimed at one ship. But the Indomitable was not alone. 30 human ships moved between it and the fire. They took the hits meant for Min Jun. They died so the truth could spread. Their shields collapsed. Their hulls melted. Their crews burned. But they bought time. The Indomitable survived. Barely. Half its systems were dead. The ship was leaking air. But it was still flying. And across space, the broadcast continued. It reached other species in the Velkari Empire. Species that had bowed to these false gods. Species that had served for generations. Now, they knew the truth. The gods were liars. The gods were former slaves. The gods were nothing special. On the Velkari homeworld, citizens watched the broadcast. Many had never known the true history. They had been taught they were chosen by destiny to rule. Now they learned their ancestors had been victims who became victimizers. The shame was overwhelming. Zarthun saw his empire beginning to crack. He saw doubt spread through his fleet. Some of his own officers looked at him differently now. Not with reverence, with questions. "Retreat," he ordered. "Fall back to defensive formation. We will regroup." The Velkari fleet pulled away. They stopped attacking. They moved into a protective sphere around the flagship. They looked scared. Min Jun watched them go. His ship was dying. 70% of his crew was dead or wounded. But they had done what they came to do. They had proven the Velkari could bleed. They had shown the truth to the galaxy. General Martinez's voice came through on emergency frequency. "Captain Park, Fall back. You've done enough. Acknowledged, Minjun said. Indomitable is returning to Earth. The ship limped back toward home. Around it, the remains of the human fleet followed. They had lost 100 ships. 5,000 people were dead. But the Valkyrie had lost something more important: their mystique, their divine image. Their power came from fear and lies. Now everyone knew it. On Earth, people watched the recordings. They saw the truth about the Valkyrie. They saw human ships sacrifice themselves to spread that truth. They saw that gods could be hurt. Gods could be frightened. Gods could run away. But Zarthun was not finished. In his command chamber, he contacted the Valkyrie homeworld. He requested the full fleet. Not the conquest fleet. The extermination fleet. If humanity wanted to fight gods, he would show them what divine wrath really meant. He would burn Earth to ash. He would kill every human. He would erase them from history. Then, he would rebuild his image. He would restore the fear. But he did not understand something important. Humans had killed their own gods throughout history. Humans had fought empires larger than themselves. Humans had survived ice ages, plagues, wars, and disasters. They were survivors. And when pushed to the edge, they became something terrifying. The Valkyrie thought they were teaching humanity about divine power. They did not realize humanity was teaching them about mortal fury. The war was just beginning. And the false gods were about to learn that the most dangerous species in the galaxy was not the strongest or the smartest. It was the one that refused to stay on its knees. Minjun looked at his damaged ship, at his wounded crew, at Earth growing larger in the view screen. They had survived the first battle. But bigger fights were coming. The Valkyrie would be back. Angry. Vengeful. Good. Let them come. Humanity would be waiting. And this time, they would be ready to kill gods. 3 weeks passed. Earth rebuilt and prepared. Factories ran day and night. Every ship that could fly was armed and ready. Every weapon that could fire was loaded. Humanity knew the Valkyrie would return. The only question was when. The answer came on a Tuesday morning. Sensors detected massive energy signatures at the edge of the solar system. Then the Valkyrie fleet arrived. Not hundreds of ships this time. Thousands. The entire Valkyrie armada had come to Earth. They filled the space between Mars and Jupiter like a metal ocean. At the center of the fleet was the Divine Throne. The flagship. A ship bigger than a city. Zarthun commanded from there. He broadcast a message to Earth. His face appeared on every screen. He looked calm, cold, absolutely certain of victory. Humanity, he said. You have forced me to take extreme measures. You spread lies about us. You attacked our ships. You killed our people. For these crimes, your species will be exterminated. We will burn your world. We will erase every trace of your existence. And then we will restore order to the galaxy. This is not war. This is divine judgment. The transmission ended. The Valkyrie fleet began moving toward Earth. Slowly. They were in no hurry. They wanted humanity to feel fear, to understand how hopeless resistance was. In the Earth Defense Command Center, General Martinez looked at her officers. We're outnumbered 10 to 1. Their ships are better than ours. If we fight them directly, we lose. So we don't fight them directly. Captain Park, present your plan. Minjun stepped forward. He looked tired. The wounds from the last battle had healed, but left scars. His left arm moved stiffly, but his eyes were sharp and focused. We can't win by fighting their fleet, he said, but we can win by destroying their leadership. Zarthun commands from the Divine Throne. If we kill him and broadcast it like we did before, the Valkyrie fleet will fall apart. They're already shaken, already doubting. Take away their leader, and they break. An admiral shook his head. That ship is protected by hundreds of others. We'd never get close. We would, if they were distracted, Minjun said. We split our forces. Most of our ships defend Earth. They make it look like a desperate last stand, while the Velkari focus on that. A strike team goes around the outside. Quiet. Fast. We hit the divine throne. Before they know we're there. General Martinez studied the tactical display. The plan was insane. It required perfect timing, perfect luck. One mistake, and everyone died. But it was the only plan that had any chance at all. Do it, she said. Captain Park, you'll lead the strike team. Choose your best people. Kill that bastard. Min Jun selected 20 ships. Small. Fast. Armed with every weapon Earth could provide. He chose pilots who had survived the first battle. People who knew how to fight Velkari ships. People who were willing to die to win. Sarah Chen volunteered immediately. So did the entire crew of the Indomitable. The ship had been repaired, but it still showed damage. Burns on the hull. Replaced armor plates that did not quite match. It looked like a warrior with scars. Perfect. The battle began when the Velkari reached Earth orbit. The human defense fleet rose to meet them. 300 ships against 3,000. The odds were terrible. But humans fought anyway. Ships died in the first minute. Then more. Then more. But they fought smart. They used the moon for cover. They hid in Earth's shadow. They made the Velkari work for every kill. And while the main fleet fought, Minjun's strike team moved. They went dark. No active sensors. No communications. They drifted on minimal power around the edge of the battle. The Velkari sensors were focused on the main fight. They never saw 20 small ships moving through the chaos. It took 2 hours to reach the divine throne. 2 hours of watching friends die on passive sensors. 2 hours of staying quiet while Earth burned below. Min Jun watched it all. He felt each death like a knife. But he kept moving forward. The divine throne was massive up close. Kilometers long. Covered in weapons. Surrounded by shield generators. Getting inside would be impossible through normal means. So Min Jun did not use normal means. All ships, arm breaching charges, he ordered. We're going through the hull. The strike team accelerated. They came in from the blind spot, under the ship. The Velkari shields protected against energy weapons and missiles. But they were not designed to stop physical ramming. 20 ships hit the Divine Throne's hull at full speed. The impact was brutal. Half the strike team died instantly. Their ships crumpled against the alien armor. But the breaching charges worked. Explosions tore holes in the hull. 5 ships made it through. 5 ships entered the flagship. Inside was chaos. Velkari warriors scrambled to respond. They wore armor that glowed with energy. They carried weapons that fired bolts of plasma. They were bigger than humans, stronger, faster. But humans were angrier. Minjun led his team through the corridors. They moved in tight formation, covering each other, shooting anything that moved. The Velkari fought back hard. Energy bolts filled the hallways. People died on both sides. Sarah Chen took a hit to the shoulder. She kept fighting. A young pilot named Kim lost his leg to an explosion. He crawled forward and threw grenades while his team moved past him. Everyone understood this was a one-way mission. Nobody expected to go home. They reached the command center after 30 minutes of fighting. The doors were massive, reinforced, locked. Min Jun placed every explosive they had left on the door. Then, they ran. The explosion was huge. It blew the doors inward and killed half of Min Jun's remaining team. But it opened the way. Min Jun and Sarah charged through the smoke into the command center. Zarthon stood at the center. His command throne was made of crystal and gold. It looked like something from a temple. He wore robes that shimmered with light. His eyes glowed. He looked every bit the god he claimed to be. "You dare enter my sanctum?" he said. His voice echoed with power. "You dare approach divinity itself?" Minjun raised his rifle. You're not divine. You're just old and scared and desperate to feel important. Zarthun's face twisted with rage. He waved his hand and the lights went crazy. Holographic monsters appeared from nowhere. They roared and charged. The walls seemed to close in. Reality itself appeared to bend. Sarah nearly fell back in fear. The monsters looked so real, so terrifying. But Minjun walked forward calmly. He had seen this before. Different place, different fake gods, same tricks. He shot the holographic projectors, one by one. The monsters disappeared. The walls returned to normal. Reality stabilized. Zarthun stood there, looking suddenly smaller, more afraid. You're just a liar with good technology, Minjun said. I've killed people like you before. Zarthun grabbed a weapon, an energy blade that hummed with power. He moved fast, faster than a human should be able to block. The blade came down toward Minjun's head. Sarah shot him 3 times in the chest. Zarthun stumbled back. His armor sparked but held. He was wounded but not dead. He swung again. This time he hit Sarah. She went down hard. Minjun dropped his rifle and pulled a knife. Not an energy weapon, not advanced technology, just a simple knife made of steel. He rushed forward, while Zarthun was off balance. The alien was bigger, stronger. But Minjun was desperate. They fought. It was ugly, brutal. No grace or honor, just 2 beings trying to kill each other. Zarthun's blade cut Minjun across the ribs. Minjun's knife found gaps in Zarthun's armor. They bled. They hurt. They kept fighting. Why? Zarthun gasped. Why won't you bow? We are superior. We are ancient. We deserve to rule. Why? Minjun stabbed again. The knife went deep into Zarthun's side. Deserving means earning. You just took. You just demanded. That's not superiority. That's cowardice. Zarthun fell to his knees. His armor failed. His weapons dropped. He looked up at Minjun with confusion and fear. Real fear. The fear of someone who knows they are about to die. We were gods, he whispered. No, Minjun said. You were just people, and we've killed gods before. They were fake too. He drove the knife into Zarthun's throat. The High Celestial's eyes went wide, then empty. He fell forward, dead. Minjun activated his suit camera. He broadcast everything. The dead High Celestial, the broken holograms, the truth. He sent it on all frequencies to every ship in the system. This is Captain Minjun Park of Earth, he said into the camera. Your god is dead. He bled like anyone else. Just an old alien who learned that lies were easier than truth. Your empire is built on fear. Well, we're not afraid anymore. And now, you shouldn't be either. The broadcast reached the Velkari fleet, every ship, every crew member. They saw their High Celestial dead on the floor. They saw a human standing over him. They saw the truth they had been denying. Some ships immediately retreated. Others stopped fighting and just floated in space. A few kept attacking but with no coordination, no leadership. The fleet was breaking apart. On Earth, the human defenders saw it too. They pressed their attack. They destroyed confused Velkari ships. They pushed forward. The tide was turning. But on the divine throne, Minjun was dying. Zarthun's blade had cut deep. He was losing blood fast. Sarah crawled over to him. She was hurt bad too. We did it, she said. We killed a god. We told the truth. Minjun corrected. That's all we did. That's all we ever had to do. We told the truth. Rescue teams found them an hour later. By then, the battle was over. The Velkari fleet had fled. Earth was saved. Humanity had won. But the cost was terrible. Thousands dead, cities damaged, ships destroyed. Minjun spent 2 weeks in medical care. He almost died 3 times. But he survived. Humans always survived. The galaxy watched what happened at Earth. They saw recordings of the battle. They saw Zarthun fall. They saw that the Velkari could be beaten. And, across 47 subjugated worlds, beings who had bowed to false gods began to stand up straight. The first uprising happened on Rithani Prime. 3 days after Zarthun died, the Rithani had bowed to the Velkari for 500 years. They had built temples. They had given offerings. They had taught their children that the Velkari were gods who deserved obedience. Then they saw the recordings from Earth. They saw a human kill their god with a simple knife. They saw the truth about the divine conquest protocol. They learned they had been lied to for centuries. The Rithani burned their temples. They surrounded the Velkari compound on their planet. When the Velkari tried to use their holographic tricks, the Rithani just laughed. They knew the truth, now. They refused to bow anymore. Similar rebellions started on other worlds. The Korath, the Zenim, the Pelkar, species that had submitted generations ago, suddenly remembered they had once been free. The recordings from Earth spread like fire through the galaxy. Every subjugated world saw them. Every slave species learned the truth. The Velkari Empire began to collapse. On Earth, Captain Minjun Park recovered slowly. Minjun did not feel lucky. He felt tired and guilty. Thousands had died in the battle. He knew it was necessary. He knew there was no choice. But the weight of all those deaths sat heavy on his chest. Sarah Chen visited him in the hospital. Her arm was in a sling, but she was walking. She brought him news from around the galaxy. The Velkari homeworld is in chaos, she said. Their government fell. Most of their fleet surrendered. Some ships are fleeing to unknown space. A delegation wants to meet with Earth. Minjun sat up. A delegation? What do they want? Peace, Sarah said. They want to surrender formally. And they're asking for help. Minjun laughed. It hurt his ribs. They want our help? After trying to exterminate us? It gets stranger, Sarah continued. The delegation says most Velkari civilians never knew the truth about their empire. They were taught they were chosen by destiny. They believed it. Now they know it's all lies. They're ashamed. Some are suicidal. Their entire culture is falling apart. General Martinez arrived later that day. She looked older than before the war. The stress had aged her. She sat by Minjun's bed and sighed. The United Earth government wants your opinion, she said. Do we help the Velkari, or do we let them burn? Minjun thought about it. He remembered the bodies floating in space. The ruins of Luna Base. The people who died because Velkari claimed to be gods. Part of him wanted revenge, wanted to see them suffer like they made others suffer, but another part remembered something. The Velkari had once been slaves themselves. They had been victims before they became monsters. Breaking that cycle meant being better than they were. We help them, he said finally. But on our terms. No more empire. No more divine claims. They join the galaxy as equals, or not at all. The Velkari delegation arrived on Earth 2 weeks later. They came on an unarmed transport. No weapons. No tricks. Just a small group of civilians who looked terrified and ashamed. The leader was a young Velkari woman named Silin. She was barely an adult by their standards. She had lost her entire family in the battle at Earth. Her father had been a ship captain who believed he was serving divine will. Her mother and sister were on Luna Base, studying human culture. They died when Zarthun destroyed it. Celine stood before the United Earth government with tears in her large eyes. I do not ask for forgiveness, she said. What my people did is unforgivable. We killed your people. We tried to enslave you. We lied to the entire galaxy. I only ask that you judge us as individuals, not as a species. Some of us want to change. Some of us want to be better. Ambassador Okonkwo studied the young alien. Why should we trust you? Your people claim to be gods. They murdered thousands. They ruled through fear and deception. Because your Captain Park showed us something important, Celine replied. She looked directly at Minjun, who sat in the audience. He showed us that truth is stronger than lies, that mortality is nothing to be ashamed of, that being powerful does not mean deserving worship. My people forgot those lessons. We need to learn them again, and we cannot do it alone. The debate in the Earth government lasted 3 days. Some wanted to reject the Velkari completely, let them figure out their own problems. Others wanted to help but with strict conditions. A few wanted revenge. Minjun was asked to testify. He stood before the assembly and spoke from his heart. I lost friends in this war, he said. I almost died. I killed someone with my own hands. I understand anger. I understand the desire for revenge. But I also understand something else. We did not fight this war to become conquerors. We fought it to stay free. If we turn the Velkari into our enemies forever, we become what they were. Rulers who demand submission. That's not who we are. The vote was close. But in the end, humanity chose mercy. They would help the Velkari rebuild. But there were conditions. The empire was dissolved. All subjugated species were freed. The Velkari would share all their technology freely. And they would join a new galactic coalition of free worlds as equals. Not subjects, not rulers, equals. The coalition formed quickly. The freed species joined eagerly. The Rithani, the Korath, dozens of others. They had been slaves. Now, they were free. They wanted to make sure no one else ever suffered the same way. Earth became the symbolic center of the coalition. Not because humans demanded it, but because everyone remembered who had refused to bow, who had fought back, who had shown the galaxy that false gods could bleed. 6 months after the war, Minjun stood at a memorial on Earth. 50,000 names were carved into black stone. Everyone who died in the conflict with the Velkari. Soldiers, civilians, scientists, children, all of them were there. Celine stood beside him. She had been working with Earth's cultural exchange program, learning about humanity, teaching about the Velkari, building bridges between former enemies. Do you hate us? She asked quietly. Minjun looked at the names on the wall. So many names. So much death. Did he hate the Velkari? Some days yes. Some days no. Most days he just felt tired. I hate what your people did, he said. I hate the lies, the arrogance, the cruelty. But you're not your people. You're you. And you're trying to be better. That matters. My father died on one of the ships you destroyed, Celine said. He thought he was serving divine will. He died believing he was righteous. I cannot hate you for killing him. He would have killed you, but I mourn him anyway. They stood in silence for a while. 2 people from different worlds, both carrying grief, both trying to build something better from the ruins of war. General Martinez found them there an hour later. She looked almost happy. Captain Park, we have a situation. The Korath discovered a species being threatened by raiders. They're asking for coalition help. We need someone to lead the response. Minjun looked at her. Why me? Because you understand what we're building here, she said. Not an empire. Not a new set of rulers. A partnership, where strong species protect weak ones not for worship or tribute, but because it's right. Minjun thought about his parents. About the cult that destroyed them. About Zarthun and his lies. About all the false gods humanity had killed throughout history. Then he thought about what came after. About building instead of destroying. About mercy instead of revenge. I'll go, he said. But I'm taking Celine with me. The galaxy needs to see humans and Valkyrie working together. Seelen looked surprised. You trust me? Not yet, Minjun said honestly. But trust has to start somewhere. 3 days later, the EDF Indomitable launched from Earth. The ship had been fully repaired. New armor. New weapons. New crew to replace those who died. But Minjun kept the scars on the hull. He wanted everyone to remember what the ship had been through. What it had survived. Silene stood on the bridge beside him. She wore a coalition uniform now. Not Valkyrie. Not human. Something new. Something that represented what they were all trying to build. Captain, Sarah Chen said from her station. We have a transmission from the Korath. They're thanking us for coming. They say it's an honor to work with the species that killed gods. Minjun smiled. Not a happy smile. A tired smile. A smile that said he understood the burden of the title but would carry it anyway. Tell them we did not kill gods, he said. We just proved they never existed. The real work is teaching the galaxy to stand on its own feet. No more gods. No more masters. Just people trying to be better than they were yesterday. The Indomitable jumped to faster than light speed. Behind it, Earth grew smaller. Ahead, the galaxy waited. A galaxy without gods. A galaxy still learning what freedom meant. A galaxy that was broken, but healing. Minjun looked at the memorial picture he kept on his console. 50,000 names. 50,000 reasons to keep fighting. Not for conquest. Not for glory. But to make sure no one else ever had to die for refusing to kneel. They claimed to be gods, he said quietly. Until we showed them they were wrong. Now we teach the galaxy what comes after gods. We teach them that truth is better than lies. That freedom is better than slavery. That mortality is not weakness. It's what makes us cherish every moment we have. Celine looked at him. And if new false gods appear? Minjun's smile turned cold. The smile of someone who had killed before and would do it again if necessary. Then we remind them what happened to the last ones. We remind them that humanity does not bow, and we make sure they bleed just like everyone else. The ship traveled deeper into space. Toward new challenges, new threats, new opportunities to prove that the age of gods was over. The age of free people had begun, and if anyone tried to claim divinity again, humanity would be waiting. Ready to shatter that illusion. Ready to show them that false gods died just like everyone else, bleeding and broken and wondering why they ever thought they were special. The galaxy would remember Earth, not as conquerors, not as new rulers, but as the species that refused to kneel, the species that killed gods, the species that chose freedom even when it meant death, and that memory would echo through the stars forever.